Everyone who consciously chooses his own path in life experiences some kind of transformation. Each meaningful event from past leaves a mark on us and shapes our character. We are all in a state of constant evolution. Nothing stays the same, everything changes. Nothing gets entirely bad or good because we give meaning to everything that happens in our life. It depends on you, whether your limitations will be the driving force for taking up new challenges or they will put you on your knees. The game is about something more than a few tips on what to do and what to say in order to be successful. It's about deep internal transformation and a larger vision about yourself. Selling is not only a skill, a profession or chore, but something much more profound. It's a mindset that can change your whole life, boost your confidence and self-esteem. Something that will have a big impact not only on your professional, but primarily on your private life and all your future. Everyone who wants to be really successful in any field that requires dedication, where progress comes gradually and is serious about it, must like what he does. Sales is often perceived and treated like unpleasant necessity. You have a product and you need to sell it somehow. Many would like to skip this process and take care about more pleasant activities. But selling should be fun. Even reaching the final goal and achieving dream sales target and financial freedom will not give you as much joy as selling itself. Overcoming your limitations and your inner journey. Because what remains forever are memories of beautiful times. Make sure that you experience a lot of them and make your life epic. Program Authentic Sales Dynamic focuses on key result areas and core values. It refers to an essence, to that what is really important and what's often forgotten when talking about sales. Because it's not about how good you deal with sales objections, what your close rate is, how high margin and turnover you generate. Finally, it's all about how these experiences shaped you as a man. How high your confidence is, whether you will be able to recreate everything from scratch when necessary. Will you be smart enough to see the bigger picture, not just a shallow false facade and illusion of success? Will you accept things as they are or spend all your time trying to control that which is beyond any control? So what the authentic sales dynamic really is? How to build tremendous self-confidence and sales skills? To answer that question, I have to go back to the past and say a few words about myself. More precisely about circumstances that shaped my perception of reality, allowed me to look at the world with distance and, what the most important, to overcome all limitations that have been in my head for years. As a child and teenager, I grew up in a suburb of Warsaw in Eastern Europe, in a country that had been behind the Iron Curtain for a few decades and where the economic situation began to change. The devastated country was in the process of transformation from centrally controlled economy to the market one. This was a time when it was extremely difficult to get any job. Most of my friends, including me, were wandering the dirty streets and productively looking for an opportunity to earn some extra money and coming up often with the crazy ideas of how to do that. And many had to pay a heavy price for the consequences of their decisions. Those teenagers from my neighborhood who were more fortunate had parents who had regular jobs, most often the simplest one, from 9 to 5, not requiring any unique skills, and while these kids didn't have much, at least didn't have to worry about the basics that every average teenager would like to have. Those who were less lucky had no support and no role models, desperately tried everything just to make any money to be able at least to buy some shoes or a jacket for the winter. Not to mention any fancy things like new mobile phone, CD player or original brand clothes. Getting a good job or work in the international environment, doing million-dollar business on behalf of serious companies seemed to be like an attainable fantasy, a world to which only a privileged have access. Especially for someone like me who was always an introvert and for whom every social interaction was preceded by internal dialogue and struggle with own insecurities and limiting beliefs. In short, who could be irresponsible enough to entrust someone like me and give a such responsible task that requires gaining the trust of serious business people who have extensive commercial experience? How could I be even able to get access to such people, not to mention having any influence on their purchasing decisions? At the time, people involved in business, sales, or even those who did white-collar work seemed to be in my eyes like from a different world. Definitely it wasn't my league. I was kicking the ball in the park with my friends while these guys were professional players in the Italian football league Series A. This was more or less how I perceived my social skills in that time. To be honest, I didn't feel comfortable in any social commercial situation, and only what I wanted was to be unnoticed and not to be forced to talk to anyone who seemed to be a stranger in my mind. Meanwhile, I always admired all those people who stood out from the crowd, who were liked by others and who were the life and the soul of the every part. After leaving school, I worked in local warehouses, earning poor money and having no satisfaction with what I was doing. I felt depressed and like time was running me out and I was wasting my life. The first moment of reflection came when I came across sales literature. Before that, I didn't realize that selling and social skills are learnable skills. I thought you either have it or not. I found out and most importantly believe that these abilities can be developed and mastered by anyone who wants to and devotes enough time to understand human psychology and master the processes that influence human behavior. So I started reading everything that was available on the shelf in a bookstore about psychology, how human psyche is constructed, about NLP, body language, negotiations, and sales techniques. Soon after, I quit my job and I started doing that what I was afraid so much, but at the same time, that what made me feel excited and stimulated my imagination. And I started my first job in sales. Gradually, my skills and confidence grew along with my sales figures. By doing what the experts advised, I noticed improvement and progress. Every year, I attended literally thousands of meetings, and that what I was afraid so much became my daily routine. Cold calls, meetings, quotations, closing the sale, month after month, year after year. On days when I didn't have any meetings, I felt uncomfortable, almost as I was doing something bad. I can say that meeting clients has become my new comfort zone. The sales process was starting to be predictable. Sales began to be like a puzzle in my mind, where the correct identification of all elements allows successful close any sale. Companies with a similar organization and operational model, people with similar character traits, decisions made on the basis of specific premises. At this stage, everything was clear and predictable. As a result, I almost lost satisfaction with what I was doing. That what a few years ago seemed to be an attainable fantasy became a new reality. Turnover was generated almost automatically and work didn't require so much commitment like the day I started. The machine was set in motion. Metaphorically, as is known from physics, stopping a speeding heavy truck is not easy. In other words, objects in motion tend to stay in motion, as one of the world's greatest physicists once said. If you are at this point, everything seems simple. You can either reap the benefits or try to develop your skills even more. That's why I built sales from scratch in new markets over the course of several years of my sales career, few times more. And it was a huge lesson in humility and patience. I realized that in order to be successful in a new market, I have to forget about what I think is certain and proven. Approach new challenge with an open mind and don't rely 100% on prepared agenda. I came out of an illusionary bubble where everything works great as long as you follow the rules. Simply because very often you don't know what the rules really are, and there is no one who can show you the right way. Most sales experts act like they already know everything, but that's not true. Depending on your market and industry, product you offer, and your target client, your strategy must be properly adapted. Often it involves revising everything you learned so far and implementing a completely new game plan. Every time I entered a new market, I was convinced that my approach is right and proven, and I know very well how to sell successfully my product or service. But usually, everything turned out to be more complex than I initially thought. Generally, my idea of doing business had to evolve every time the rules of the game changed even slightly. What I thought was a minor variable often required to modify the entire sales model. Especially for someone who has worked for many years in one market, it may be extremely difficult to get rid of old habits. In my opinion, most people don't even take on new challenges and don't try new things. Because when everything goes the way they want it, it's easy to keep a good mood and be motivated. Problems arise when, despite the enormous amount of work, people don't achieve expected results, or the results are disproportionate to the invested time and effort. The lack of success may begin to be overwhelmed and become a burden. Therefore, authentic sales dynamic doesn't only focus on sales techniques, how to deal with client and sales objection, but in the first place about the mindset and the building enormous confidence in what you do. A moment of reflection in my life came when I realized that despite years of work and experience, still deep inside I felt insecure and fear of rejection. It wasn't fear in the literal sense, rather the voice of my ego which was insistently trying to defend its identity. Our ego seeks recognition and approval. It's afraid of judgments and criticism. The point is that everyone has his own vision about himself, and people are determined to defend one's created image. We become attached to our beliefs and to the picture we have created in our imagination about ourselves, to our personal convictions about who we are or who we have become. And subconsciously, at all costs, we try to avoid situations that may expose our ego to unpleasantness. In books or at sales seminars, everything looks simple and nice. In practice, the sale of virtually any product or service is slightly different. Offering the same product but of a higher or lower quality requires of analysis of the previously used sales strategy. Price level, quality, brand recognition, all factors are important. Sometimes changing even the small characteristics of a product might entail a change in the market segment in which you operate, and as a result involves rebuilding your contact base or even building a completely new one. That's why the only constant among many variables and unknowns in this equation when talking about sales is you. And to be really successful, you need to focus on yourself the most. Warren Buffett, one of the most successful investors in the world, used to say about the concept of the circle of competence, which means that investors should focus on the areas they know best. Understanding your circle of competence in sales helps you to avoid many adversities. Right identification of opportunities, your strengths and weakness is crucial. Nevertheless, shortcomings shouldn't stop anyone from taking on new challenges. And yes, the right strategy can change the outcome of any battle. But first, you need a confidence and a character to accept the battle and the courage to take responsibility for your actions and failures, which may be inevitable. Only knowledge of the human psyche and conscious management of your own emotions can give you full control and build a better version of yourself. It will help you wade through the moments of doubts and give you motivation to continue your journey when the hard times come. This applies not only to beginners, but paradoxically very often to professionals with long sales experience. If someone has been working in one industry for many years and was devoted to his profession, he's certainly a specialist in his specific field. Someone like that, when he's on a roll, he certainly has high self-esteem, self-confidence and a big ego. That's natural because with time and growth experience, our confidence and skills grow proportionally. He emanates confidence, his clients see it. Usually from that moment on, sales go smoothly. He's no longer a newbie, he starts to feel as an expert, and that's how he starts to be seen in his industry. However, if someone pulled him out of his familiar environment and put in a new role, in new reality, where he would have to verify everything he had learned so far, this is a completely different story. Our ego seeks recognition and approval, and when competence don't correspond to reality, people tend to lose that what was their strength, namely faith and self-confidence. Moreover, ego defends hard-built image of a pro while the skills deny it. The degradation continues, good vibes evaporate. Seemingly invisible tension between what you feel and say start to have a disastrous effect on how you are perceived by your environment and your clients, finally on your sales outcomes. People fall so easily into the comfort zone because they are afraid of failure, to expose themselves and be vulnerable. That's why so rarely take up new ambitious goals. Because what usually happens when someone starts a new challenge? No matter how successful he was in the past, he has to face a lot of rejections. But it comes much harder now. Deep inside, he's afraid to lose what he was building so hard, his image of himself. Everyone wants to feel important and be respected. It is difficult to keep distance, be relaxed and positive when someone pushes us away. People tend to put on a mask, pretend everything is okay while it affects them a lot. Clients feel all our insecurities intuitively and subconsciously move away. It's some kind of a vicious circle. The inner game is strictly dependent on self-confidence and it becomes weaker along with the awareness of the gap in our knowledge and grows with experience. Explaining and understanding what authenticity in sales really means is complex and requires being receptive and open-minded. One of the reasons for that are ambiguities. Even the most basic rules shouldn't be taken too literally and may appear in many cases inconsistent or even contradictory. Authentic sales dynamic revolves around personal growth, psychology, and sales techniques. For sure, it's not the easiest approach to selling because it requires deeper analysis, but definitely the one which will have the greatest impact not only on your professional but also your private life. Only when these both spheres work together in harmony, true inner transformation is taking place. It's crucial because success in sales cannot be achieved until you become and you reflect that success. When you are a beginner, you have the right to feel insecure. You lack experience, you make mistakes, you learn. Most likely your approach to the client is dominated by lack of decisiveness and confidence, which is a reflection of your inner state, and by naivety and lack of professionalism. These are shortcomings related to knowledge about the marketplace, product features, competition, dependencies between different companies, or for example, client habits. As a result, the process of building from scratch a dominant position in a new unknown market and getting loyal clients may be a very long process and painful experience. And here comes the fundamental question. Does it have to be a rule? How to suppress these negative feelings and insecurity? Be unfazed when the hard times come and make it a pleasant and enjoyable experience. How to skip this process and become a better version of yourself much faster. Once, at the end of the day, I felt that no matter what I say, how many meetings I wouldn't do, I'm not even one step closer to reach my sales targets. That's why I decided to change my approach. I wanted to see how far I can go without trying to make a good impression and how quickly I may be rejected by a new prospect. The next morning, I just sat in front of a group of people I saw for the first time in my life in the client's office where we met to discuss the details of previously prepared offer. And for over a minute, I didn't say the word. We just sat and stared at each other. I didn't know why, but I found this awkward silence quite pleasant. Suddenly a smile appeared on my face, and at the same time I noticed that the attitude of the initially reluctant people towards me changed too. I've attended thousands of meetings, but it was something else, something real, something, as it turned out later, that no one can resist if it's true. I didn't care about the outcome, I just enjoyed the moment. The conversation had casual tone. We talked about business, private life, product range, offered solutions, the condition of the market and the economic situation in the world, about everything what is usually discussed at similar meetings. But there was one noticeable difference, namely a positive energy that could literally be felt in the air. That day I tried a few times more and I finally understood what chemistry, transfer of emotions and energy interaction between people really means. How nonverbal communication can affect social and commercial contacts. Most of all, how to truly enjoy a sales process. Authentic sales dynamic will help you to manage your emotional state when you do your daily duties. During meetings, crucial conversations, public speaking, how to feel good and comfortable and build a real deep rapport with your client. But authentic sales dynamic is not only about emotions, it's primarily about consistency between your thoughts, feelings, and actions. Emotions don't mean anything if you don't know how to use them wisely. Sales strategies and sales techniques don't work unless they have a proper emotional background and must be first personalized to be really effective. And this is exactly what authentic sales dynamic is. It connects what you can read in sales literature and advice you can find in the internet with what cannot be seen but really matters. Conclusions presented in this program were written over a long period of time. Some of them are clear and easy to grasp, others are very complex and full of ambiguities. English is not my first language, therefore please forgive me grammatical and stylistic errors. I tried to write down my thoughts and reflections at the moments when they appeared and it was still fresh. Often when I traveled from one meeting to another, in moments of victories and defeats, of sadness and great happiness, in parking lots, in hotel rooms, in the lobby waiting for the client, not rarely very early in the morning while everyone else was still asleep, drinking coffee and getting ready to go. Sales can be both a very easy and enjoyable as well as tough and difficult job. Constantly appearing ambiguities mean that there is no one single rule that guarantees success, but by being consistent with your feelings, your actions have a greater impact and thus you can influence people around you. By revealing real hidden objections and related fears and then freeing your clients from them, you will be able to effectively close any sales and improve significantly your close rate. Authentic sales dynamic will not only help you to put together your unique puzzle and take a look individually at your market and industry, but primarily change you internally, make you gain higher self-esteem and real self-confidence, regain authenticity and remove the masks you are hiding behind. Charisma is deep within each of us. We don't have to look it far away, but to bring it out, we have to get free from our restraints and stop being someone who is constantly controlled by fear. Confront your own limitations and become a wolf. A great generalization here, but that's exactly what it's about. When I started my journey, what I most wanted was to develop skills that could help me to get and influence clients, overcome my inner limitations, my shyness, and other limiting beliefs that stuck at that time in my head. With time, I realized that it was a very superficial and shallow understanding of the problem, and the change that took place in me was much deeper. I realized that what I wanted couldn't lead me to success because there was no solid foundations for that. I wanted to be someone else, someone better, but luckily I found myself. Above all, I've learned to see myself when I look my client in the eye. I see my own fears, insecurities, beliefs, flaws, pride. But most of all, I see someone who wants to be treated with respect and not feel manipulated. Everyone deserves to be understood and appreciated. These are our natural desires and the main motives people follow in the game called sales. Authentic sales dynamic exposes how disastrous and consequences and pointless is looking for self-esteem and approval in other people's eyes. In the same time, reveals how to find it within yourself. Because everyone has that one thing that makes us unique and energy that cannot be resisted. We need only to take off the mask we put on every day. Eventually, sales skills are nothing more than the ability to communicate effectively. Free yourself from wanting to be accepted and not seeking approval. Clear the mind and gives calm. That change in the mindset allows you to become a man who is able to understand the motives of people, and those who seem to be so mysterious and inaccessible. Therefore, the game is primarily about your inner transformation, about confidence and belief that you are able to gain and learn everything you want and achieve each goal you set for yourself. Thanks to newly gained authentic identity and your inner transformation, you'll be able to win the trust of anyone you want and close any sale. Looking at sales from this almost spiritual perspective have changed my life, made me feel calm and fulfilled. And I wish the same for you.